One city thinks it's found the solution to the affordable housing crisis. They want to pay Airbnb hosts to convert their properties from short term rentals to long term rentals. But it's not going to work. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Asheville, North Carolina. So it's obvious to me that in a lot of places, right, they're really struggling to find, people who are willing to create affordable housing. And part of it is that they create the problems themselves. They create the problems by putting so many rules and regulations that, hey, the housing's just not going to be affordable. It's not going to be affordable if I have to pay, all these taxes to the local government, if I have to jump through all these hoops, etc., in order to build, in order to even offer my property up for rent. And you know what? A place that is popular in particular, it's going to be very, very difficult to find affordable housing for anybody. And that's just the nature of the game, okay? Now, the easiest thing they could do, in my opinion, if they want to incentivize more affordable housing construction, is to pay, right? And that's exactly what Asheville, North Carolina is trying to do. They're saying, hey, we will pay you to convert your Airbnbs, your short term rentals over into long term rentals. Now, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think that the majority of people who are operating short term rentals, they want to have a long term rental because they make so much more money doing it their way, and they're used to doing it their way, that they don't want to convert their properties over to a long-term model. Okay, now imagine here you are, you bought a property for a certain amount of money, and you're like, okay, well, the only way I can make money off of this property is by it being a short-term rental. Are you the type of person then at that point who's going to be like, well, you know what, now I'm going to turn it into affordable housing? Because that's what they really want. They want it to be affordable housing. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, but when I think of affordable housing, I think of housing that is affordable to the grand majority of people, in the middle class. Okay, but to these government bureaucrats, that could mean, well, it has to be affordable to people who are in the very lowest tiers of the income distribution. And I'm just like, well, that's not even reasonable right there. So, you're not going to be able to make as much money converting your property over to a long-term rental. The only time that I really think that this will come into play is when there was a person who owns a property who already was planning to convert from short term to long term, and then they just see, oh, well, I was already going to do that anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this money from the government for doing something that I already had planned to do. Okay, I don't think the people who operate short-term rentals, I don't think that they're suddenly going to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to convert all my properties over. No, it's just not going to happen. Okay, so before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. What would you think would be a good solution to the fact that, hey, a lot of these places that are less affordable, they don't have enough affordable rental properties available. What do you think the solution to that problem would be? Okay, I mean, obviously, more supply would be a great thing. Okay, if they could spur construction somehow, figure out a way to get more units out on the market, that would be a good thing. But a lot of the stuff they're doing right now, it's having the opposite effect. It's causing there to be less units on the market, and that's the stuff I'm talking about every single day. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's happening in North Carolina and Asheville, but I don't think that their solution is a actual, like, it's going to actually make an impact. Okay, but anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says, because this is an interesting program and it could benefit those who do want to participate. This article is coming from the citizentimes.com, and it says Buncombe may pay landlords to convert Airbnbs to affordable apartments. All right, let's see what the details of this are. Buncombe County is considering developing an incentive program that would pay landlords to convert short-term rentals like Airbnbs to long-term affordable rental properties. The Buncombe County Board of Commissioners learned about the proposed program from county staff during a December 5th briefing. Buncombe County Director of Strategy and Innovation, Rafael Baptista, told commissioners that staff evaluated programs in Arizona, California, and Maine cities and towns. The most successful program they studied launched in Truckee, California, a ski town in the Lake Tahoe region. That program allowed renters making less than 150% of the area median income to participate, which in Truckee is $168,750 per year for a family of four as of June, according to federal data. So basically, similar programs have passed in Arizona, California, and other places throughout the country, right? Where they're paying these short term rental landlords or hosts, I guess you could call them, to convert their properties over to long term rentals and become actual long term rental landlords, such as myself, right? Now, I can understand why this sort of thing would work in a place like Lake Tahoe, right? Lake Tahoe is very expensive, and you want to have more affordable housing there, right? But at the same time, like the reason that I believe that some landlords would want to convert over to long term rentals is because they're not making as much money on the short term rentals as they thought because they're trying to operate it remotely. Like that was one thing that I remember that, when I talked to a person who did short term rentals, they said, if you are not local to the city where your short term rentals are operating, it is a lot harder for you to make a profit. Okay, and that can lead to just a lot of issues right there. And so what we have is you have out of state property owners who are renting out these properties in a place like Lake Tahoe, and they're short term rentals and they're still not making any money, and they're just wondering, well, this isn't working out the way that I planned, so what do I do? What do I do? So they want to convert theirs over to long term rentals. Okay, but even then, you're still going to have a lot of people who just don't want to do it. Okay, they don't want to do it because maybe they want to use that property for their own personal use for some, like that was one thing I talked, that I considered when I was looking at short-term rentals, right? Like if I buy a short-term rental, I want to actually be able to use it myself at some times of the year. Okay, I don't want to just be renting it out. I want to be able to say, okay, well, for a few weeks a year, I and my family are going down here and staying in there, whenever we're visiting that part of the country. And, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of the people who run these short term rentals who are doing the same. Okay. So if that's the case, converting over to being a long term rental would be an impossibility because you'd never get to use your own property. So I'm not sure that, like I said, this isn't going to make the impact that they think it's going to make. There might be a few people who want to bite, get that extra money, but I think, like I said before, it's going to be the people who already were planning on doing this. Landlords participating in that program received incentives between $2,000 and $18,000, depending on the size of the unit and length of the lease, Baptista said. It was the most successful of the three programs presented to commissioners. The program created 137 long term rentals still in operation. Well, when you think about it, 137 isn't that many. Okay? It isn't that many. So if you have a household of four people, right, living in each one of those 137 units, I mean, we're not even talking about 1,000 people are housed. So I realize that they think that, hey, oh, this is going to make such a huge difference, right? The only thing that's going to make a big impact is more construction. More construction. We need more units being put on the market if you want more affordable housing. It's this adding 137 units is not going to make a big difference at all. Okay, so I mean, I kind of support this. I mean, to an extent, but at the same time, right? You have to ask yourself, what's going to happen when the money dries up? Okay, so right now they're talking about they're going to be paying thousands of dollars to these landlords for having converted over to long term rentals, right? But if they don't continue to provide that money to make up for the lost income for when they switched over from long or short term to long term, then the landlords are just going to switch right back and go right back to short term rentals. And you know, I don't like the idea either of landlords being dependent on government money in order to make their businesses viable. Okay, it's not something that I agree with. Like I'm pretty anti-socialism, and this it just reeks of socialism. So this is not something that I would personally ever want to participate in if I did operate short-term rentals. But I support those landlords who do want to at least try this. But my idea is that you should try to make your business viable without government money.